Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCap's Patch 1024 Tier List, brought to you by the expertise of top-ranked challenger players along with the analysis of the most up-to-date statistics. This patch we see nerfs to many of the problematic AP items, including Demonic Embrace, Night Harvester, and Lichbane. On the flip side, buffs to Tier will help out many of the struggling mids right now. We'll also be seeing some much needed nerfs to Amumu, Kayle, Hecarim, and Samira, who have all been decimating their opponents since the beginning of preseason. What have you guys been enjoying so far in preseason? Have you been playing anything odd or off meta that works really well? Let us know down in the comments below. AP Twitch is something we've had a lot of fun with and has been a nice change of pace for ADCs. While you're down there, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss out on another video. With that being said, let's jump into it. The first thing we need to break down are the changes to items. So many of them are getting buffed and nerfed in this patch, so let's run down those changes for you first. Starting with the nerfs, Luden's Tempest will have its AP ratio on the proc damage lowered from 15 down to 10%. It will also have its move speed boost lowered from 30 down to 15%. Liandry's Anguish sees a nerf as well. The dot damage AP ratio will be lowered from 2.5 down to 1.5% AP. Both these changes will hit many of the AP mages for this patch. Night Harvester will have its proc damage lowered from 175 scaling to 250 down to 125 scaling to 200. Lichbane will see its Spellblade AP ratio lowered from 50 down to 40%. These two changes will hit a lot of AP assassins, especially Fizz, Echo, Diana, and Katarina, who have all been very strong with the Night Harvester and Lichbane combo. Rocket Belt will be getting nerfed too. The rocket damage is being lowered from 200 scaling to 300 down to 175 scaling to 250. The move speed will be hit as well, going from 75 down to 50%. Once again, this is a nerf targeted towards those super strong AP assassins. Next, Riftmaker will have its damage amp lowered from 3% per second with a max of 15 down to 2% per second, maxing out at 10. Nashor's Tooth will see its on-hit AP ratio lowered from 25% down to 20%. These two changes specifically will hit Kayle and Volibear the hardest, as they are the two champs who build these two items first. The nerfs to Demonic Embrace will help tune down the AP bruisers, as its dot damage will be lowered from 1.5% down to 1.25% max HP per second. We have two AD items that are getting nerfed, Eclipse and Blade of the Ruined King. Eclipse will have its passive cooldown increased from 6 seconds up to 8 seconds. This change will bring a lot of AD champs down in power slightly, but this won't be enough to stop people from building this item. Blade of the Ruined King is getting a cost increase from 3100 up to 3200, and an attack speed nerf going from 30 down to 25%. This nerf will hit champs like Irelia, Jax, and Set, who have done well rushing Blade recently. With all those item nerfs out of the way now, let's break down the item buffs. Tier will have its base mana increased from 150 to 240, but will have its max stacks lowered from 450 down to 360. This will help out some of the struggling tier champs in the early game, like Anivia, Ryze, and Kassadin, but will be nowhere near enough to bring them up in power substantially. Cosmic Drive will have its AP increased from 70 up to 75. This is an item a lot of players are sleeping on at the moment, as it's the easiest way for mages to reach max CDR. Try it out as a second item on this patch on champs like Vladimir, Azir, Ahri, and Orianna, and you'll be surprised how strong it is. AP junglers will actually be getting buffed, as the healing from your jungle item will no longer be reduced for AoE abilities against monsters. To compensate though, the healing will be reduced from 12 down to 10%. In order to better compete with Eclipse, Prowler's Claw will have its AD increased from 55 up to 60. Another niche lethality item, Serpent's Fang, will have its bonus damage against shields buff, going from 50 up to 70. Enchanter supports will be getting a buff, as Moonstone Renewer's base healing will be increased from 30 scaling to 60 all the way up to 60 scaling to 90. The more time you spend in combat, the further this heal is amped, and that will be changed as well, going from a max heal of 75 scaling to 150 to now 120 scaling to 180. And then the final buffs are to ADC items. Kraken Slayer sees its AD being increased from 60 up to 65. The proc damage AD ratio is also getting buffed from 30% up to 45%. Essence Reaver will have its AD buffed from 40 to 50, which will be a nice buff to ADCs like Lucian, Xayah, Sivir, and even Gangplank up in the top lane. Finally, Phantom Dancer will have its cost decreased from 2,900 down to 2,700 gold, along with the buff duration being increased from 2 up to 3 seconds. Moving on to our top lane tier, Tryndamere will be the first champion receiving buffs for this patch. With the changes to crit and crit items in preseason, Tryndamere has really struggled to lift his sword. In response to this, Riot will be buffing his Q passive AD, going from 5 scaling to 25 up to 10 scaling to 30. His QAD per 1% missing HP is also getting buffed, going from 0.15 scaling to 0.35 up to 0.15 scaling to 0.55. He'll be locked away down in C tier for a little while longer. On the complete opposite side of the spectrum, the most broken champion to start the preseason off will be hit with nerfs. Kaele's passive attack speed will be lowered from 10% per 100 AP down to 5% per 100 AP. With the nerfs to Riftmaker and Nashers we discussed earlier combined with this direct nerf, Kaele will be tuned down a considerable amount for this patch. It won't be quite enough to remove her from OP status though. She held a 56% win rate throughout the entirety of 10.23, and even when that drops a few percent due to these changes, she still remains an OP top lane pick. For the rest of our top lane tier list, we have Kaele, Shen, Malphite, and Camille in the OP tier. Tanks are absolutely dominating the meta right now, and we don't see that changing for 1024. Other than the hotfix Sunfire Aegis received earlier in 1023, there are no other nerfs to tanks for this patch, so they will remain on top of everyone else for a little while longer. Our 3 low elo picks of the patch are Malphite, Cho'Gath, and Sion. If you want some of that sweet free low right now, then be sure to spam these 3 tanky, broken top lane picks. The best bans for top lane in 1024 will be Malphite as top priority, followed by Shen and Kaele. All 3 of these champs are very popular right now and are extremely broken too, warranting them a good use of your ban. One champ we want to highlight that is really flying under the radar is Quinn. If you're struggling against the likes of Kaele, Darius, Renekton, or Riven, then Quinn is the perfect counter and is actually super fun to play with her new build. Lethality Quinn with Eclipse, Sanguine Blade, and the Collector gives you insanely strong one-shot potential and make your roam plays and catch threat top tier. Now that we've covered the top lane, let's head into the jungle. 2 champions will receive a knock from the nerf bat, and first up is Hecarim. Hecarim's passive AD from move speed is being lowered from 15 scaling to 30% down to 12 scaling to 24%. On top of that, his E move speed is being decreased from 25 scaling to 85% down to 25 scaling to 75%. Even with these 2 nerfs, we won't see Hecarim fall too far from his throne. We will be keeping him in OP tier for now, but he's very close to dropping to S with these nerfs. Undoubtedly, the most broken champ in preseason has been Amumu, and Riot will be hitting him as well because of that. Amumu's W will be getting 2 nerfs. The first to its base damage going from 5 scaling to 15 down to 4 scaling to 12. The second to the AP ratio going from 0.5 to 0.25% max HP per 100 AP. Considering Amumu has held an unheard of win rate exceeding 60%, these nerfs won't be enough at all to remove him from OP. Continue spamming the sad mummy for your freelo in 1024. Looking at our jungle tier list now, the OP tier consists of Nunu, Kayn, Amumu, Rammus, and Hecarim. Like top lane, tanks dominate the jungle meta too. Kayn and Hecarim are your best bruiser options. Kayn is especially strong right now, as he's the perfect pick into these tank junglers. He can skirmish against them well early on to get form faster, and due to his sustained and consistent damage, tanks can never take him down later on. Our low elo picks are the exact same as the OP, with Nunu, Rammus, and Amumu as they are all super simple to play and extremely OP. The best bans for jungle on 1024 will be Amumu, Kayn, and Hecarim due to their strength in the meta and high play rates. One super underrated jungle pick our analysts recommend you try for this patch is Sion. If you remember back a few patches ago, jungle Sion actually got direct buffs to make his clear stronger. That combined with tank items being super good make him a really sleeper jungler at the moment. Although his pre-6 ganks aren't the strongest, his clear is great, and once he hits 6 he has some of the best gank threat in the game since he can lane gank with his ult, which doesn't have much counterplay. Moving on to the mid lane, only one champion will receive a direct change. Galio will have his passive now properly scaled down with ability haste. Considering Galio is already one of the best mid laners, even if this is a bug fix, he really doesn't need anything added to his kit to make him stronger. This will just further solidify him as an OP pick for 1024. Joining him in the OP tier for mid lane will be Fizz, Kayle, Victor, Malphite, and Echo. Although items like Lichbane and Night Harvester are being nerfed to bring champions like Echo and Fizz down in power, you have to remember that mage items like Ludens and Liandry's are being nerfed too. This means that even though the strongest picks will get weaker, so will mage picks that aren't performing as well. This means the relative champion strength will change very slightly for 1024, but nothing too dramatic. Our low elo picks for mid will be Malphite, Malzahar, and Annie. Due to Malphite's overall strength, you can play him as a tank mid and have just as much success as you would with him as a top laner. Malz and Annie are both super simple and will still do great with the burn builds even after the nerfs. Some mid lane bans our analysts advise you to consider are Fizz, Zed, and Akali. They're all very strong S and OP tier assassins right now who are played a ton and are definitely worth a ban. Morgana is one champion we want to highlight for 1024. AP assassins and just AP champs in general are running rampant in pre-season. You have Fizz, Echo, Katarina, and Akali being spammed in mid lane, and then you have amumu, Malphite, Kayle, and Nunu being OP picks for jungle and top. Her overall strength in the meta is at an all-time high right now as a great counter to those champs. She can do great as a mid laner to really neutralize those assassin picks and not allow them to snowball. Despite the nerfs to Liandry's and Demonic Embrace, the burn build will still be good for Morgana, and throwing a Zhonya's in there as well is a perfect build path for her at the moment. The AD carry role will just see one nerf to Samira for 1024. Her melee passive is being nerfed as the bonus AD ratio will take a hit from 10 down to 7.5%. Her passive dash range will be nerfed as well. Previously, it had an 800 scaling to 1000 range. It will now be nerfed down to 650 scaling to 960, which will be a decent hit to her early all-in potential. Will these changes be enough to remove Samira from the meta? Most likely not. She's one of the few ADCs performing well with the new crit items, as the synergy she has with Shield Bow and Bloodthirster, providing her with a ton of lifesteal and survivability, make her super good right now. For that, Samira will remain in OP tier. Accompanying her will be Jhin, Ashe, and Swain. Most traditional crit ADCs aren't performing great right now after the preseason changes, and that's why you see both Jhin and MF really dominating. Both can build full lethality and take Dark Harvest as their keystone to give themselves earlier spikes and more solo carry potential. Swain is a really sleeper pick played in the carry role at the moment. He's great with the burn build, and paired up with any aggressive CC support, it's pretty much impossible to lose lane. The low elo picks of this patch for ADC are Miss Fortune, Swain, and Ashe. All these champs are super simple and really strong in the meta. The best ADC bans for 1024 are Samira, Ashe, and Jhin. Samira should be top priority, followed by Jhin and then Ashe. One champion who has been considerably rising and holding down a spot in S tier for this patch is Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa has so many unique builds going around in preseason and is super fun to play because of that. One that we would recommend you try out is the Lethality AP Hybrid. Rush Duskblade followed by the Collector and then Nashers. This build allows you to play really aggressive, almost like an assassin ADC. You can get in with your ult to finish off your target, and then use the invisibility from your Duskblade to kite away to safety. And then to conclude the tier list, let's break down the support role. Contrary to all the previous roles, support actually doesn't see any direct buffs or nerfs to any champs for 1024. So let's just jump right into the tier list. In the OP tier, we have Leona leading the way, with Brand, Janna, and Zyra not too far behind. Leona is absolutely busted at the moment, and is by far the best engaged support you can play. Brand and Zyra are both great carry picks, as they are godlike with the Liandry's Torment and Demonic Embrace burn build. For Janna, she's the best enchanter support on the patch. Imperial Mandate is very strong and quite easy to proc with her point and quick slow, which makes her top tier. The three low elo picks for support are the exact same as in the OP tier, with Leona, Brand, and Zyra. Best bans for support are Leona, Brand, and Morgana. Our analysts suggest you put the highest priority on Leona, but if you want to play her yourself or another aggressive support, then definitely ban out Morgana. We want to mention Zillion for our interesting support pick. This champion always flies under the radar, and right now is no exception. He's so strong with Imperial Mandate and does an amazing job at both synergizing with and shutting down the tank meta. Although tanks are really good, if they have to deal with a max build ADC sitting beside a Zillion later on in the game, it's gonna be really difficult for them to take you down. The move speed you provide your carries allows them to kite tanks around, and then the revive on top of that makes him even more annoying. On the flip side, if you're pairing Zillion up with a 4k HP tank later on, providing them with a 99% move speed boost and a revive, your team fights are just really disgusting. It's already difficult enough to deal with a Malphite in general, but having to deal with one running at you with 1k move speed and having an extra life to work with is just on another level of broken. Alright guys, that concludes our patch 1024 tier list. Be sure to let us know down below who you will be playing in preseason to level up your game for the start of Season 11. If you enjoyed the video, then do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe as well so you don't miss any future content. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching everyone. We'll see you in the next one.